Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for April 22nd through the 28th. And this week is about deepening into yourself with a full moon in Scorpio, and we have Mercury stationing direct in Aries, and some other things that we're going to talk about. A lot happening this week. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a depth psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I'm so happy that you're here. I am pleased to be able to share the astrology of this week with you from a psychological perspective. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. First things first is we do have this full moon in Scorpio. So this is exact on Tuesday, April 23rd at 4:49 p.m. Pacific time. This happening at 4 degrees of Scorpio. And so there's a few different things to get into here. When we have a full moon, it is a theme, a symbol of culmination, of things wrapping up, or not wrapping up, things ramping up, especially leading up to the full moon. And it's sort of this like really getting to be able to see the things that have been uh, coming up for us, the things that we've been working on, the things that have been sort of swirling in the background. And I think because the moon is so connected to our emotions, to our personal unconscious, to our personal psyche, and even the physical body, and how our emotions and our mental state and our physical body are all interconnected. Those three things: the body, the mind, and the psyche. This is the moon. And so when we have a full moon, there's kind of this amping up and this things coming together, things coming online. And this can sometimes feel like a lot of energy, like there's a lot that is happening. Now, when this is happening in the sign of Scorpio, there are themes around deepening into the full spectrum of your emotional experience, really feeling things at maybe a deeper level, at a more somatic level, at a more intense or high octane level. Scorpio is about deep feeling. Scorpio is about getting into things very deeply. Scorpio is about uh, getting into the underpinnings of the thing. And Scorpio is really also about ruthless, authentic honesty and ruthless truth seeking. So, uh, this is a time where we may find that things are revealed to us, that we have more of an understanding of things. Sometimes this can be prickly or inconvenient or a little bit uncomfortable. The nature of uh, the unconscious, the nature of the personal unconscious, and the nature of self discovery, it can feel a little bit like, oof, ouch, or oh, I don't really like that part about myself. But when we go into that part, especially that we don't like, or the part that feels bad in some way, when we explore that with curiosity and non-judgment, it actually opens up more wholeness and possibility, and it actually feels usually like there is some sense of either integration or relief, or we're sort of claiming more of ourselves when it comes to a full moon in Scorpio. And um, that can sometimes feel a little bit scary. And um, so we're just gonna, this week, like every week, we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to pace ourselves. We're going to um, do the things that we need to do in order to cope or seek comfort or regulate our mind and body and soul and spirit. Now, the other piece of this full moon is that it is fairly closely in a square to Pluto. And Pluto mimics and mirrors the themes of Scorpio. Pluto is about going into the depths of things, going into a deeper understanding of ourselves, especially through the unconscious or through things that have been pushed away, through things that have been projected away. Um, Pluto is really about reclaiming the truth, reclaiming what has been hidden or tucked away. And Pluto is also about negotiating or looking at our relationship to power and control and how we relate to those themes. So, these themes, I think also when we're talking about, uh, so full moon is always a polarity. The moon is in Scorpio, the sun is in Taurus. Happy birthday to my Taurus people. Um, Scorpio Taurus are very much about power, control, autonomy, and they go about it in different ways. Scorpio is more about emotional control, inner control, and Taurus is more about external material world type of control. And both of these things are something that we relate to. They are both present in our lives in varying different ways. And so this has already activated this, how we feel safe, secure, in control, how we feel autonomous, um, how we assign power and control outside of ourselves, how we reclaim it in the way that works for us, or maybe a way that doesn't work for us. So these are all things that we're going to be possibly looking at. And then Pluto square this moon is also, it can feel like a confrontation with the things that maybe um, we haven't seen, or that um, confrontation of the things that we have pushed to the side or not wanted to look at. And this is, a healthy, we all do this, myself included. We can't be conscious of everything and be thinking about everything all the time. This is also why we have Mercury retrogrades, because sometimes we have to go about our lives and then go back and tend to things. And so I think with this full moon, especially, there is a tending to maybe the things um, that you have felt guilty or bad about, or in some way there's been a little bit of um, wanting to push something aside, that may come up to receive some loving attention from you. Let's see, what else did I want to say anything about this? Yes. Okay. So I think also Pluto and Scorpio, there's this theme around perceiving what is actually going on. I wrote here, this full moon is a culmination of perception. And I think that this is the other thing, is that um, this may be a week where you have a sense of clarity, especially around something that's been eluding you or sort of confusing. Now, um, the other piece of this full moon, though, is that its ruler is Mars. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars. Mars is in Pisces, and it's with Saturn and Neptune. So Mars is actually going to conjunct Neptune this week. So we're going to talk more about that in a second. And it's like there's this depth of intensity, and then the ruler of this new moon, or the ruler of this full moon, is in another emotionally focused sign, another water sign, Pisces, and it is approaching a connection, a conjunction with Neptune, which is about feeling into things. And it's really about getting information via via altered states of consciousness, or via non-ordinary reality, uh, getting information via our intuition, or feeling into things, or getting a gut sense, or sort of following a hunch and then getting feedback on that. So there's a lot here around feeling into situations. And um, I think this week there's a potential to emotionally process a lot, or to think about a lot. And so I want you to be holding that this week may not be about being practically productive or getting stuff done. This is kind of more about sorting things out within yourself and within your life. And of course, that may involve tangible external actions. And there's a lot to be done here with contemplation and with um, giving yourself the opportunity in whatever way works for you to feel into what's happening for you now. Okay. So yeah, the other thing that's happening this week is uh, Mercury's retrograde will be ending. So Mercury stations direct in Aries on Thursday, April 25th at 15 degrees of Aries. And so I want us to start to think about Mercury retrograde. Okay, so we're going to think about it in a different way. So it's not just that the retrograde begins and ends. Like it's in the sky, it doesn't really work like that. In the sky, it is Mercury up until Thursday this week will um, it's still moving backwards to our eye very, very, very slowly. And working up to Thursday this week, the 25th, Mercury's backward movement is appearing to slow down. And then Mercury is going to appear to stop. And so it's kind of like if you're driving backwards, you need to stop before you go forwards, right? So it's that kind of idea. And so Mercury's retrograde doesn't end. It's sort of like the like backward sort of movement from our eye, right? It's not actually going backwards, it's appearing to go backwards. There's this pause where from our perception, from our perspective, Mercury appears to stop and then it goes forward. And I'm really like, you're like, why does this even matter, Shawna? I'm really emphasizing this because we're taking that and we're symbolizing it. We are taking it and applying it to our lives and what that may mean. So this is important because Mercury's retrograde, that period of about 3 weeks or so, I think three-ish. So this period that Mercury was retrograde from April 1st to April 25th in the sign of Aries. This chunk of time is a symbol of mentally, logically reflecting and contemplating on things. It's also a symbol of like looking back and being like, oh, like what in my life do I feel like I want to maybe do things differently. I want to like retool this, or I've been wanting to get to this thing that I want to revise or repair, or even just kind of think about my life in the way that I want to do this. So a very introspective, contemplative, kind of repairing, revising, revisioning kind of vibe to April 1st through the 25th. And so that does not simply end. It's not like a light switch. It's more of like that the car changing directions forward to backward where there's a pause. And so this week, especially Thursday, but either side of that. So before and after Thursday as well, there's sort of this like slowing down. And I think it's really helpful to look at the experiences that we've had in April. I would say even late March to now, because this Mercury retrograde is really intertwined with eclipse season because it overlapped with eclipse season and it's in the same sign that we had one of our eclipses. And so I would this week feels like a good opportunity to really uh, look at what has happened, the changes, the beginnings, the endings, the things um, that have happened for you very unexpectedly and very rapidly. And Mercury is about making sense of things. It's about using our more logical, analytical, and also our meaning making part of our mind to understand what is happening. Often understanding can be motivating, validating, and it can inform us of how to move forward. So I think this retrograde period in particular has been about making meaning and making sense of this eclipse cycle and of this eclipse season. Now, let's see, other fun facts about this Mercury's station that I want to make sure you know. So, the whole retrograde period was in essentially late to mid Aries. So, Mercury stationed retrograde at 27 degrees Aries and it moved back to 15 degrees of Aries, where it will station direct. Uh, Mercury is also stationing direct this week on the 25th, conjunct the North Node because the North Node is also at 15 degrees of Aries. And so I think this is really interesting. This is like so closely connecting into um, the eclipses, which are um, a symbol of an open portal to new beginnings and endings and very rapid change and transition. And I see eclipses also as sort of a reset button where um, quite literally what happens with an eclipse is something is like we talked about last week and maybe the week prior, is that an eclipse is about obscuring something. We see something, it gets covered temporarily, and then we see it again. And so there can be this sort of renewed energy around especially the things that have been obscured for a while. And so um I think there's more that we're integrating this week. There's more that we are, especially with the full moon in Scorpio. This week is really, really about deepening our understanding of our experiences, what has happened in the last month ish, and where we're going forward. What we want to do with what we've experienced. Um, and so, yeah, let's see. So, yeah, I would contemplate what has shifted for you in the past month, both externally and then internally. How are you making sense of this? What does this mean to you? What does this mean for you? What story are you telling yourself? And I think, especially with Mercury retrograde, um, we get to, with this is the beauty of our logical mind, we get to decide the story that we tell ourselves, and that there's a lot of power in that. And um that we get to decide what meaning we make of things, that we're intuiting meaning, but we're also saying, okay, like, is this the most helpful story that I want to tell myself? Okay. So other things this week are, I mentioned that Mars will conjunct Neptune in Pisces. This is happening. So we're working into this, and we've been having Mars sort of situated between Neptune and Saturn. Um, and the exact Mars Neptune conjunction will happen Sunday, the 28th of April at 28 degrees Pisces. So um, this is really about physical action, Mars, standing up for things, fighting for things, coming into contact with exploring things in a non logical, non linear kind of way. So it's very interesting. We have Mercury retrograde making meaning, but then we have the doing of things being a little bit more indirect or spatial or experiential. Um, this combination to me is really about working with our imagination, our intuition, moving with the flow of things, taking steps in a way that you're sort of being guided. Um, Thinking about that spiral path of healing, that there is sometimes not that sometimes your path forward is a bit more ambiguous, or it's a bit more non-linear, and that you're going to get where you need to go by following where you are being moved to go. um, I think at a more practical level, this is really conducive to listening to good music, watching a show, relaxing, meditating, journaling, freestyle movement, being near or connecting with water in a way that you're able to. I think this is also a place to contemplate where, how you're learning to surrender, to trust, or to go with the flow, and how to navigate that, that balance of, I think this week of, um, using the mind, using the analytical kind of thinking that can lend itself to Pluto and Scorpio and Mercury, and then also the more daydreamy spatial kind of thinking that lends itself to Neptune. Now, I do want to mention that we're still in, as I'm going to start shuffling my tarot cards. So we're still in the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction uh, period. So I talked about that in last week's video. And because Jupiter moves so slowly, it's still within the degree conjunct Uranus this week. And so we're still like in that energy. We're still in that vibe. And what else do I want to say about that? So, so we talked about Jupiter Uranus as a transit, as a combination, is about innovation, rapid or unanticipated or unconventional growth and expansion. This is really about expanding your worldview, how you think about things, and exploring how or where you're craving more freedom, openness, change, or innovation in your life. I think that um, Uranus, Jupiter and Uranus are really about play, novelty, and curiosity. So those are things to look for. Um, yeah, and overall, I think this week is really about. I said integration, and I think it's really about finding a firm footing for yourself in this world, in this situation, and um, what stories you're telling yourself about what's happening, and continuing to listen and to watch and to contemplate what is coming up for you, and how you are, um, what your experience is, and how you are making sense of that this week, and knowing that that's going to change, of course, always, right? And knowing that, um, I think, especially with retrograde and eclipses, knowing that our perception of the past might change also, and so that might be something that you're working with too. Maybe there's a very old story that you're reinterpreting this week. Okay, are we ready for the tarot? Okay, so first card is the Star card. And I really love this card. I love, there's this figure that has a dress, and the dress has constellations on it. It's this navy, dark blue sort of color. Um, so the Star card is a reminder to be optimistic. It is a reminder to, um, so I have conflicted feelings about this. So the Star card is really about reminding yourself to be optimistic, and that it reminds me of how it's like you get to choose the story that you tell yourself. And I think sometimes, um, I know that I do this, is we can kind of default to a more judgmental or self-deprecating kind of story, and that can kind of be a default setting, for a variety of different reasons. And so I think this is reminding us that we get to choose how we look at things. And I have conflicted feelings about this, because I want to make sure that I'm not saying, "Oh yeah, just have a positive mindset, and then like that is a cure all to fix your problems." And sometimes there is a lot of value in going into what you actually feel, and the icky feelings that you feel, and why that may be, and where does that come from, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that is important to explore what your natural mental grooves are, so to speak. And this card is reminding us that we have a lot of choice and power in our narrating of our inner world. And so again, I think that um, I don't want that to be like a bypassing of our inner chatter and just like pushing it away, because that's not always helpful. But this is kind of like, okay, how can you look at the things that are working, that are beautiful, that are open for you? And we may return to that. So this very encouraging card. It says that there are things, there are resources for you if you look at them. The second card is the 6 of Swords. And so this card to me is about working with the title that I have on this card is Earned Success. And so this card is really about working with the resources that you do have, working with what it is that you do have. Um, I think that when it comes to swords, there can be also a thinking through and a processing, like we've been talking about. And this is about, yeah, I even want to say it feels like working with the things that you've gained in the past. And I feel like I want to read from the guidebook of this particular deck. I don't know why. So 6 of Swords. Okay. We all work hard and spend so much energy on our work, relationships, and other people. So, no feeling guilty about taking a holiday for yourself or doing something fun. Leave your troubles behind and, uh, yeah, basically go on holiday, take a rest, etc. Do what feels good for you. So, um, I feel like this card is about enjoying the things that you have accomplished, enjoying the successes that you have accomplished. There's this theme here around optimism with these two cards, and acknowledging the good in your life. I'm thinking about how my grandma always used to say, I just look for the good, just look for the good, and and laugh, and it helps. And she would usually say that when like something was not going so great. So I feel like these cards are an emphasis around looking for the beauty or the brilliance or the light, and looking for the good that's happening in your life. And then the last card is the Judgment card. So this card really for me embodies the Jupiter Uranus, and I would even say Scorpio energy, because judgment is about um showing up as yourself. And I think that can be an inner experience, it can be an outer experience. The Judgment card is really about being who it is that you are and managing the fear and anxiety around being judged by others, being judged by people that you care about, being judged by your community. Um, I think even that inner judgment too is something that can come up around this card. And so I think that kind of the storyline that I'm seeing here is that there is a call to look for what is working for you, to enjoy what is working for you, and that through that process there is more of you that is going to come forward, that there may be an embodied experience of feeling into yourself more, and that happens uh, not through denying yourself, but through looking at where you're being called. I think I'm also thinking about how the stars are used, were used as like navigation points and guiding points. And so it's like, where are you receiving guidance? Where are you receiving guidance um to enjoy the things that you enjoy? And that again sort of is a pathway, like that is the guidance to being more of yourself. And that there's going to be like a little bit of anxiety or nervousness to manage, because it's scary to be who you are. um because we're conditioned to fit in, and we're conditioned to align with what is socially acceptable, whether that is collectively the community or your family of origin. And those are things, especially with Jupiter Uranus, that we're working through, uh especially like this week and last week and next week, but over the last many months. Okay. That was your weekly astrology forecast. I really hope that you enjoyed this. As always, I love hearing from you. My name is Shawna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and an astrologer, and I do work with folks for depth psychotherapy, where I incorporate astrology into that process. If you want to find out more about me and my work, you can find that on my website, theastropsyche.com. I'm wishing you a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.